Hey church family, great to see you again. And here we are for another daily Devo in Mark chapter 15. And today we're going to talk about the trial, the crucifixion, and the death of Jesus Christ. So this chapter begins where Jesus is brought back to Pilate. And one of the key things there is Pilate says to Jesus, he says, "So are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus' response is this response of not really saying yes or no. He just looks at Pilate and says, "Well, you say so." And this goes on. And of course, there's crowds gathering, and Pilate is responsible for Jerusalem and not having riots and keeping the peace and those things. And now, as you know, as you follow it along up to this point, we know that there is a lot of emotion in following Jesus or not following Jesus. The Sanhedrin and the Pharisees are all against Jesus because, let's face it, Jesus is threatening their way of life. Jesus is threatening their belief system because they don't think he's the Messiah. And if Jesus gets too many followers, then that's going to change everything for them. It's going to change the way they live. It's going to change their ranking in society. It's going to change a whole lot. And they just really don't like him. As a matter of fact, as I keep reading this and as I always study this, I just see them as bullies. They're bullies because they don't want their life to change. But what they don't realize is when you believe in Jesus Christ, your life will change, and it is for the better. So as we get back to this, now they're going to release a prisoner. It's something they do every Passover. They offer to release a prisoner. And so now Pilate has allowed them to choose between Jesus and a prisoner named Barabbas. Now Barabbas is a guy that is a known thief. He's a known murderer. He is just absolutely one of the worst people there is. And now Pilate is giving a choice to the people that are standing around out there. And what do the people choose? The people choose Barabbas. They want Pilate to let Barabbas go, not Jesus. And they want Pilate to send Jesus to death. They want Pilate to crucify Jesus. Now remember, the only one that can sentence death is not the Jewish people, it's the Romans. So Pilate is the only one that can sentence Jesus to death. And it becomes a big deal because of all the debate. Now I heard a speaker one time say, "Do we choose Jesus or do we choose Barabbas?" And I thought it was so great that every time we go to do something, every time we have a choice between right and wrong, every time we have a choice between righteousness and sinning, who do we choose? Do we choose Jesus or do we choose Barabbas? And I think that's one way you guys can look at it. Do you choose Jesus or do you choose Barabbas? What a wonderful way to think about that as we move along. But as we get to the end, of course, we know this story very well, that Jesus is placed on the cross and he's crucified. And after he dies, there's something I really want to point out, is that there's some ladies that stay back. These women were the last that were at the cross when Jesus died. And they were also the first at the tomb, as you will find out as we move along to the next chapter. This is such a sad, sad event. Probably one of the biggest tragedies ever on this earth. And as we read it, I know we find a mix of emotions. But know this: God takes those things that are bad. God takes those things that are a tragedy, this being one of the greatest, and he makes it good. And what does he do with this? This gives us a path to God. This gives us our freedom of sin, because all of us are sinners. All of us are sinners. We're born that way. That's who we are. And there's only one way to heaven. There's only one way to God now. And that's through Jesus Christ and the blood that he shed on the cross. This day, in this chapter, when we read this, it's important that we understand that yes, it is a tragedy, and yes, it is sad. But it's also great. God is so good that he allowed us to be washed clean by the blood of his son. Church family, I love you. It's always great to be with you. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great week.